Hello world, this is the Florida Aviation Network coming to you live and in the clear, and we're streaming video over the internet. That's the reason I say world. This, if you know how to log in and you have a good internet feed, got good feed, you're going to be able to see this. But it's so unfortunate. I'm so sorry, because if you're watching this from the comfort of your living room, that means you're not here. And you need to be here. This is the wrap up. This is the last day of the 45th annual Sun and Fun International Fly-In and Expo. And here at the Florida Aviation Network, we're a volunteer-run organization. We have a thread of safety through every one of our presentations. And education, that's our strength. That's our foundation, if you will. Out on the flight line, we have Live Air Show TV. Those folks are taking care of more of the entertainment aspects of what goes on here at Sun and Fun, but we are recognized as being the official Sun and Fun television network. And we've been that for, I'd say, about 10 years now. And we're developing more and more. And if you have followed the Sun and Fun, the progress being the second largest air show gathering in the nation, it's quite remarkable. And in that so remarkable, and it's the transitions that we see. And we have a transition today with a new chairman of the board, Mr. Harley Richards. Harley.
Yeah, good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Good to have you here. Yeah. And Harley, you don't mind me calling you Harley?
No, absolutely not.
Because I've noticed you're not very stiff, as far as you address me as Mr. Chairman, if you will, please.
Oh, yeah.
No.
That would be Dr. Chairman, but we won't go there.
Yeah.
But Harley, tell us a little bit about some of the attendance and some of your perspectives, being this your first time being in the chair.
Right. Right. Being in the chair has been a little bit different, more down in the trenches, you might say.
Yeah.
And I've been following Lights Leanhouse, John Leanhouse, President, CEO, and you really start to get a little grip on behind the scenes, what's going on, that just being on the board really doesn't give one the opportunity to grasp. So
you also need good running shoes.
Right. And and you need a handle on the back of that saddle, because it's like riding a bucking bronco, and you got to hold on when you're behind that guy.
Harley, I misspoke. We did not recognize our esteemed host to your left, Lori Bradner.
No worries, no worries.
I get so I use the term myopic a lot, because normally it's just me and a guest. I am so sorry.
Ben, I am just honored to be here, and Harley, it is so wonderful. We had a wonderful time just chatting before we went on the air. So Ben, don't you even worry about it. It's not about me. I want to hear more about this bucking bronco and Harley's, really what your impressions were this year, especially after taking over the new role that you have at Sun and Fun.
Well, quite frankly, I'm a little bit concerned because the banner has been set so high this year. That when you think about, let's have a better flying next year and a better flying next year and so on. I mean, this year, all of the stars just sort of aligned. I mean, we have a good economy. Fuel prices are down. But more importantly, the weather. I mean, it's just beautiful. Like, the last few years, there has been this weather front that has just kind of come across North Florida and South Georgia the first couple of days of the fly-in, so no one could get here. Right? And that didn't happen this year. So the attendance has just been, it was record-breaking, I think Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, maybe Friday wasn't. I haven't heard the figures on Saturday yet.
I think Lights said that Saturday did as well. We just had Lights was we had an interview with him earlier.
Oh yeah, okay.
And he did say that this has been a record-breaking year, and I think that the number that he said was over $3 million, which is unheard of, and it is crazy.
And so, in terms of attendance, I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know how we're going to do better than we did this year.
I was going to say, I don't think all the numbers are in, because as you know, we still have one more day. We're still in the last day.
Right.
So they're still not done counting.
And that, that's just attendance. That doesn't account for the campers. If you've driven around the campus, particularly over on the west side, there are motorhomes where I have never seen motorhomes before.
Everywhere.
Yeah. There are airplanes out on the east side where I have, in my history here, maybe seen airplanes only once or twice out that far.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that everybody is staying here so long.
Yeah. They don't want to miss anything.
In some years, people have left yesterday.
Yep.
And so Saturday, there's, but that's not happening this year.
They're still here.
Well, Harley, the best thing that I could recommend, if I feel so honored being able to give the chairman of the board some advice, but when you do so good and you get it so well done, all you just sit back and just start polishing stuff, man. Polish a spinner and polish some of these buildings, slap some new paint here and there.
Right.
You're there. So let's and y'all have built it. They came.
Right.
So and this goes back to Billy Henderson back in the early '70s.
Yeah.
Had this vision, and I'm so proud that Lights mentioned to us that you're keeping the Sun and Fun name, if you will. It's a brand.
Right.
Yes.
And it's so important, the history of that brand. And
Ben, may I interrupt? Oh, go ahead.
And when we talk about ACE, we'll talk about that with Sun and Fun.
Right. And we would like to, one thing I'd like to back up a little bit, because I know that you said this is a new role for you. And a lot of people as a new role, Harley, they may not know your history, but we were talking, can you talk a little bit about your history with Sun and Fun? Because I know it's not just a year or two. You've been coming to Sun and Fun for a while. And would you be willing, and Ben, if that's all right, would you be willing to talk about that and how you really stepped into this new role? Because it really is. It's a huge opportunity. It's a huge honor. And we're so thrilled to have you here and have your vision. So would you be willing to address that for us?
Well, sure I can. When I moved back to Lakeland, this really is about Sun and Fun. It's not about me, but I was coming out here in the early 80s. Mm-hmm. And the flight line used to be up where Warbirds is. Mm-hmm. And there was an old dentist here named Ned Yarborough who had flown bombers in the war.
Okay.
And he would bring me out here and introduce me to all these old guys who I'm sure are no longer with us. Oh. And so that was back in the days where the general public could not go out on the flight line. Okay. You had to have a pilot's license, is my recollection, to get out on the flight line.
That's true. Yeah. I remember those days.
And that was probably back in the 80s. And I don't remember when that changed. And so, I would come to Sun and Fun every year.
It was early 90s.
Early 90s.
Okay.
And, it transitioned. I think that probably was helpful for the general public.
Yeah.
But I've been coming out for a number of years. And I got to know Bob Beatty. And Bob had been on the board for a while. And Bob said, you're out here all the time. You're out here every year. You're out to my house every weekend flying around and everything. He said, why don't you consider getting on the board? And I said, well, let me think about that. So really, Bob Beatty is responsible for my board appointment.
And he heard it live here.
He heard it live here, and he knows it.
He knows it.
So, and when I came on the board, we talked about that transition period at the end of the John Burton era and the John Leanhouse era.
Right.
I was here a year or two before that. So I've seen a lot of changes since 1980. It's been about 40 years.
Right.
And
you took over for Bob Knight.
Right.
Bob Knight was the previous chairman of the board.
Right, Bob Knight was. And in that 6 years that Bob Knight was the chairman of the board is when all of the James Ray stuff happened.
Yes.
And there was a lot of behind the scenes activity, as I'm sure Lori knows, negotiating to get the high school built and how the relationship would be with Sun and Fun and the school board and all of those complicated relationships. All of that happened during Bob Knight's time. And so there was a tremendous change in the landscape of the campus during
It was
that
growth.
time.
It was a growth. It was a period of change and growth.
Right.
But it was growth that needed to happen to continue the legacy. Absolutely.
Right. And so it was also during that time that the little bitty antique home builder fly-in that turned into spring break for pilots turned into education for young people.
Yep.
Yep. And so I've been here through that transition, and that's what's been so exciting for me.
Well, and you're going to be in that seat when it does make its switch to Aerospace Expo.
Right.
So not just fly-in where you go and drop in and eat some fried chicken and chew on a straw. There's still that aspect of it, though, and that's what I hope that we don't lose that. To be able. Oh, and I saw something driving in today. I didn't realize. Saw some folks coming in their Aerostar, camping underneath the wing of their Aerostar. Now that's roughing it, folks.
Yeah, that's a pretty skinny wing, is my recollection.
Well,
too. You aren't going to get a lot of camping.
There were just two of them.
Yeah.
There were just two of them, but it's so nice to see the champs and the cubs and the T-crafts out there with a tarp thrown over the wing, and that's their tent.
Ben, just one thought before I forget it, because in my old age I'm getting a little more forgetful.
No, senior.
But the Sun and Fun Fly-In has turned into a huge fundraiser to support our educational venture.
Yes.
And so we cannot, as you just said, we cannot lose sight of our origin, and we cannot lose sight of the fly-in and the worldwide branding that fly-in has. And because that's our money machine that drives our ACE educational program.
Right. How many, I think that there's been right now there's 90. There's 90 students that have graduated with their license, from what I understand. I know that there's graduates, Harley, that are, as we talked about, are captains already.
Right.
And what do you see? What is your vision for the expansion of that? Do you have a vision? I mean, it's clearly just in talking to you, and I want, as a teacher, I want to say thank you for your passion. Thank you for the passion for our future, those that are here. What is your vision? Where do you see this as it becomes the Aerospace Expo? That in itself reeks of education to me. So what is your vision to take this forward into the future?
Whether we're going to stay more of a high school level educational deal, or whether we're going to develop some really tight relationships with, let's say, Embry-Riddle and Polk State, and be, a higher level, educational feeder type situation. So I would like to see us develop stronger relationships with the likes of Polk State, Embry-Riddle, to really truly be able to take these young people who are motivated, who we are going to give scholarships to, who can take advantage of the many scholarships that are actually out there that nobody knows about. And there are a ton of them. We were talking to the Embry-Riddle people yesterday.
Yes.
And there are all sorts of scholarships out there with Embry-Riddle. There are scholarships out there with the Navy Foundation in Pensacola. Nobody knows about it. And so, we've got to get that integrated in.
Get the word out.
And get the word out.
Yes.
To allow these young men and women to move on into a college environment.
Well, in Polk State, they're perfectly aligned right now. Eric Crump is very motivated, and he's the happiest. I've known Eric for many years.
Yeah.
And he was the happiest I've ever seen him this past Sun and Fun. Just because all the things that are coming down the road from the VOTEC and the college aspect, and
the groundwork is there. The groundwork is there for the vision.
Yeah,
it is. The groundwork is there.
I mean, get your private pilot's license from the school and your airframe license.
Yes,
soon
don't
to be
forget
Air
that.
A and P, and also they threw that over the fence to the higher learning, to the college level.
Yep.
And they have a very robust Travis VOTEC.
Yep.
So there's a lot going on.
There is, and the board, and I'm chairman of the board, we're going to be sitting up here looking down at things from 30,000 feet. And I'm not a land developer, but what I see so often is these developers, they build houses, but they don't have the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that concerns me, Lori, is that our vision, I don't want us to outrun, take the vision and outrun the infrastructure.
Right.
Does that make sense to
Yes,
you?
it does.
And so I think we have to be very careful in our expansion that we don't expand too fast,
Right.
get too big, and basically outgrow ourselves.
Exactly.
So we've got to, I think at the board level, we've got to really keep a close eye, because I'm telling you, Lights, he is like laser focused, ready to go. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
It's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing,
No.
and it's
And then, man, Harley, I'm glad I don't have your job. I mean, trying to rein Lights back in. Whoa, boy. Whoa, boy.
Yeah.
Hold it back just a little bit, Lights. Let's build this up around us before we go up that high.
Harley. It took two of us in his interview.
Yeah,
Neither one of us could hold it back.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
But without that enthusiasm and that drive, you really don't go anywhere.
No, you don't.
And it's important that we keep in mind, again, being a true professional is not being surprised, even in the cockpit. You know yourself with your flight experience. Having an emergency in flight really should be a non-event. You plan for it, and when it happens, you deal with it.
Right.
Unless you're on fire. Now that's
The only time you have too much gas.
That's true.
Yeah.
And that gets my attention. I do not want to be. Now I will get on the ground. We are all just. We do want to thank you and the board for your guidance and your overview, and it's, a lot of folks don't realize how a board really works with a nonprofit organization, but you take care of your stakeholders.
You do.
And it's a business. You got to make money, and I'm so glad that you mentioned we throw out a figure of $3 million. Holy mackerel! That I feel. Why do they charge me? They don't need that money now. Why do they charge me $100 for a week wristband? That money goes back into the community. It goes back into the industry. It's a nonprofit.
Well, I think it costs $2 million to put on the air show.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
So
People don't realize.
just to
Just break even.
Yeah,
Right.
you got to make $2
Right.
million to break even,
Right.
and so
And
then
one of-
the rest is going to after administrative cost. And I can tell you that Lean House and his staff, they're very frugal, and so a lot of that money, I can't tell you the exact percentage out of a dollar that gets moved on, but I can tell you that it is significant.
And I have to give you another applause, you and the organization, for even talking numbers. I remember back in years that they wouldn't announce how many were in attendance, or what the funding was, because they weren't meeting their mark.
Right.
Yeah.
They were coming up in a deficit, having to borrow money through the. These are some of the background that a lot of folks don't realize. Having to borrow money just to keep the thing going, and fortunately, they would pay it back.
In my time on the board, we were on the credit line.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not anymore.
Yeah, and I remember the one thing talking to Bob Knight was that's got to stop.
Yeah.
That's got to stop
Yep.
now, and you got it back on track.
And we're putting $2 million a year into our educational programs.
Thank you. Yes.
$2 million a year.
Yes.
And I'm sure Lean House talked about the different scholarship programs and all
He
that
did. You're
for
you're
the
welcome
viewers.
to mention, but absolutely.
know,
AOPA,
there's-
EAA
Right.
joined in.
Well, the James Ray scholarships
Right.
Yep.
that you alluded to, we have produced 91 private pilots.
Yep.
They're adding 3 or 4 more a month. There's the A&P program, the scholarships
Yep.
for that. There are the scholarships to Polk State College, which if you qualify, you can get $5,000 a year times 4 years. You have to maintain some grade point averages, and
Which
things
is reasonable.
like 275, I think it is, something
It's
like
more
that.
than reasonable. Absolutely.
So, there's a lot of bucks going out for I think the flight scholarships are around $12,000.
They are.
Yeah.
They are. Yes, sir. For each
So,
student.
and the public does not understand any of that. And not to mention the great high school that has 100% graduation rate.
Yep.
And I learned yesterday that anyone can go there.
Yes, they can.
A gentleman that works for me who lives over in the Riverview area would like to have his son go there. And I said, I'll check and see if you can live in Tampa and go to the Central Florida Aerospace Academy. And I found out that if you can get there on time,
you can go.
You can go.
You can go.
And evidently people have moved here
Because of that.
because of that school, just to go to that school.
It is a premier, one of the things I will tell you, a wonderful joint venture with the Polk County School Systems. I can speak to this. Certainly, it is one of the premier career academies. And I will tell you again, thanks to Light's vision, giving him credit, thanks to the guidance of the board. Lights alluded to it just being Polk County, and I want to tell you as a teacher in Hillsborough County now, it is not just Polk County.
Right.
There are schools, I know Rochelle Floyd, who's your education director,
right.
Fabulous job. We had the inflatable planetarium out, so there's so much outside of just the flying that you're doing, and really truthfully, the beauty is, Harley, is it's become not a Polk County, it's a Central Florida. It's really, it's growing, and it's been growing since its inception. And I understand now that apparently you awarded, there were students that were outside of Polk County that were awarded flight scholarships.
Did he talk about that?
He did, and that had never happened in the history. That is brand new, which is fantastic.
And and Harley, before we wrap it up here, I want to just thank the board and Sun and Fun for their support for the Florida Aviation Network as well.
Yes.
Because media, to get the word out, you're talking about outreach.
Right.
And anybody that carries one of these iPhones around, you'll be able to watch one of these programs on your iPhone.
Right.
And you can duplicate that as many times as you want. All you got to do is log in, and there it is. And that's what we look forward to growing with the organization. And to helping the live aspect out on the flight line, as well as this aspect here for the safety and education thread. So, but thanks, and thank you for stepping up and offering to fund us for the next 5 or 10 years. Oh, you didn't realize that?
Oh yeah, I did. It wouldn't surprise me. But thank the two of you for having me.
This is awesome.
And if it doesn't do anything, if all it does is get the word out as to what we have going on here at the Sun and Fun ACE organization, just for that one point alone, it's well worth it. Awesome. If we did have to fund you, or if we are funding you,
thank you very much. Now it's official.
Whatever we're doing for you, it's worth it.
Speaking to the caller.
We're well funded now. Thank you very much.
That's it.
No, Lights is rolling over. No. Well, look, thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate it.
And I know you've got so many different places to be.
Harley, it's so nice to have you. Thank you. Thank you for all you do.
Yep.
And Lori, do you want to close it out, or you want me to close it out?
I'll close it out today.
And this is our last session.
You are our last session.
Oh, wow.
You're the cream of the crop.
Cream of the crop.
Crescendo.
Stop and stop. That is fantastic.
Close it out for us, Lori.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here. We're celebrating. We are actually celebrating.
Lori,
yes.
check that out.
Oh, thank you. Good. See, it's live. Look at that, the camera. We're celebrating 45 years of Sun and Fun. We are here with Harley Richards, the new chairman of the board. This has been an extraordinary week. It's not done yet. If you're listening to us, we want you to come out and visit us before we close. On behalf of Ben Coleman, the Florida Aviation Network, and Sun and Fun, we thank you so much for your support, for your donation. We will be broadcasting live from the Aerospace Center for Excellence. We're right here at Lakeland Linder International Airport. Please come see us today, and we look forward to seeing you next year for the 46th Sun and Fun Aerospace Expo 2020.